very similar to a lot of games last year. You battled on the boards, you lost the battle of the boards, but then you got you're a huge plus in the turnover category. From that element, did you like the team defense in a way forced a lot of turnovers?
Yeah, I mean, I thought our team defense was good. You don't get that far sometimes when you force that many turnovers because after 2 or 3 passes, you're forcing them into a travel or a bad pass. But the concern, obviously, is the rebounding part of it. And we have to do a better job. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, when you're positive 15 in rebounding and assists, then that you're gonna win those games. I don't care how it unfolds, but when you look at it and you break down categories, and if you're going to get out rebounded, eventually that's going to catch up to you. We've seen that in the past, and that's something that we have to do a better job of. No matter how many minutes our experienced guys play, we still have quality players coming off the bench. Even though they're inexperienced, they're still good players, and everybody has to rebound. So I don't think whether it was our reserves or whether it was our starting 5 or experienced guys or inexperienced guys, nobody did their job on the glass, and we have to try to get that corrected.
How much did you like KG's play?
I thought he did a great job. I thought he was very efficient. Kind of less is more sometimes with him. When he just takes what's given to him, takes those open shots, plays within himself. He's worked real hard in the off season at improving his game. But I think more than anything, you can just see that he's healthy. And sometimes you can't judge when the ball goes in or doesn't go in. I thought he did a good job of jamming the basketball and pressuring the basketball. And then I thought he was just in good defensive position, tonight. And I think you saw that with his 5 steals. Really paid off by just being in the right position and understanding what's going on.
Matt, DJ he fouled out, he had 5 turnovers, but he did some awfully good things for you. Offensively, I mean, he looked like, he didn't look like a typical freshman.
Right, he did some good things, and what he has to understand, moving from high school to college, is he needs to be a shot maker for us and play with a lot of energy. He doesn't need to be a playmaker. He needs to make the simple play, and when he learns to do that, he is really going to help us and play a good role. And you saw that tonight in spurts. He makes open shots, he's aggressive, but he's going to have to keep the game simple and then just make the easy pass. And tonight he passed the ball across his body a couple times, so we'll hopefully get that corrected also.
Kind of any adjustment to him, obviously, with what your needs are probably as a team right now. He has to play maybe a little on the front court than he has in his career before. Is that any kind of adjustment for him?
Not really. He's on the court, he still shoots threes, he still stretches the defense and drives the ball. Actually, I think it helps him because he has a bigger guy on him when he has to be able to make a play, whether that's a pull-up or a drive. So I don't think it's that much of an adjustment. It's more of him learning just to play within himself and be solid. And when you blend with the guys that we have returning, you don't need to, be that playmaker. You just need to be a guy that makes shots and moves the basketball and keeps it simple.
What about just your freshman kind of as a whole tonight? Just anything jump out at you, anything fresh? Obviously, that's probably who you have.
Yeah, well, Pat's got to learn, to do some things on the defensive end in terms of post defense and hedging, and just some little things defensively he's got to get better at. Offensively, he can make shots. Sometimes he rushes some things. He missed a couple of those shots badly, and he just rushes some things. And he just needs to take his time. He needs to play as physical as he can, though, without reaching, because he's got a great frame, and he's getting better at it. And that's what he's got to continue to do, is just play as physical as he can, obviously without fouling. I think Barlow brings some good playmaking skills. He's got a good size to him. He's athletic. He's long. He's going to be a very good player here, but he has a position. When he has the ball in his hands, he really sees what's going on. He's got to eliminate the one-handed passes across his body, but he really sees some things out there. And obviously we talked about DJ, but more than those guys, I didn't want to play them all together, and I did that probably more than I would like to. I'd like to sprinkle them in with the other guys, but it's hard. If you do that, you're only playing guys 2 or 3 minutes at a time, and then you're bringing other people in to balance it. And I like playing guys for 4, 5, 6 minutes at a time, and then try to give them a rest so they can play. You pull them out after 2 or 3 minutes, they just got loose. So that's whether you're experienced or not. So it's kind of a fine line right there. I don't think it was fair to some of those young guys because they're all out there together. And in a real game, they're never going to be out there together. We're never going to have those three freshmen, with a redshirt freshman and a sophomore out on the court at the same time.
Do you expect to, are you still looking at guys thinking maybe we can redshirt this guy or that guy, or is that?
Well, Lewis throws a monkey wrench in the whole thing, because he is going to play. Right. And so it's just, you talk about DJ Bird, going over as much, and you're saying your needs in the front court. Well, it's obvious, there's a log jam there in the backcourt, and that's a great problem. We didn't have that problem 3-4 years ago, so this is a good problem for us. But Lewis is going to play. He gives us quickness. He can push the basketball. He can break down the defense. He can pressure, but obviously he's not going to play in the first 3 games. And so you throw that, where do you find 20 more minutes for him in a real game? And so that's a little bit different. But no, we're trying to evaluate to the best of our ability. Obviously, looking at Kelsey is probably the number one thing for us. But he is such a good decision maker, and he gives us that athleticism. But as you know, we can't play 12, 13 guys.
But as a stepping stone, is this a good jump-off point for you guys to be able to see where you're at?
Yeah, you don't like the lulls in the game that we had tonight. But it's good for guys to get out and just get some experience, and then you can take from this game, you can make improvements, you can go back to practice for 4 days, get in 4 good practices, and then play again, and hopefully, play with more energy, play with more enthusiasm, and be better on both ends.
Now, how many, in terms of rotation, what kind of rotation, how many guys do you think?
You know what, I don't even know, and just because this is the first time we've had this kind of depth. I thought Michigan State last year did a great job of bringing along Corey Lucius, bringing along Draymond Green as freshmen. There were some games where they didn't play very much, but by the end of the year, that proved to be a valuable asset for their team, is that they had freshmen, they had depth, and they also had a lot of big bodies that they would throw at you. So at times they played 10, 11, 12 guys, and you just don't know from just a rotation where you stay with it. That's probably going to be at a 9-man rotation at some time, but then you've got to have 10, 11 when you get to whether somebody's a zone buster or somebody, you want an extra ball handler, or you need depth on your front line. Obviously, we don't have a lot of depth on our front line with Sandy being out, and that's another guy you can throw into the equation. Both those guys are playing tonight. Where do you find minutes, for everybody? But like I said before, recruiting cures it all. You got to go out and get good players to push those other guys, and that's when you make improvements, especially in practice.
This is just kind of your standard. Is this just kind of your standard exhibition opener where obviously you weren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really expect that right away, right?
Right.
You expect that kind of have to feel your way around something.
Yeah, and I think as a coach, you got to be able to just sit there and take it at times. Because you get frustrated, the fans get frustrated, I get frustrated, and you got to allow them, some of those growing pains. As freshmen, as inexperienced guys, especially when I don't help them when I play them all together. But I think it's part of it. It's part of those guys getting out there and learning and valuing the basketball. They just don't. When you're 19 years old, you just do not value possessions, and you can see that tonight from some of those guys.
You mentioned DJ in the offensive end, was playing maybe before you. What on the flip side, can he handle it down there? Physical play?
Well, I think so. I don't think it's something that, I think it's probably more traditional for him to be as a small forward when there's rebounding involved. But our league plays, relatively small at the 3 position. Now you've got to be able to move laterally and guard those guys. And now when you move up a little bit at the 4, now you've got to be able to play post D and box those guys out. So there's a big jump from the 3 to 4 in our position. It doesn't blend as much as, say, it maybe did 15, 20 years ago when you saw bigger wings. There's more quickness at the 3 than there's more size at the 4. And obviously we offset that with skill. And so it's like people that make a big deal about Juwan Johnson's weight, when in reality he's got an advantage with his quickness and his length every time he matches up to somebody. Well, we got to match up with our skill, and that's how we try to offset that with those face-up 4s.
Saw some zone defense tonight. That's got to be nice to see, I guess, in the next game.
Yeah, Yeah, it's actually great to see when somebody comes out in 1-2-2 zone presses you, and then goes back to a 1-3, and they go back to a 3-2. It's great to see because you get some live game experience at seeing different defenses, especially early in the year. Sometimes you'll go 4 or 5 games without seeing anything, and then once somebody hits you with it, it takes you like 10 to 15 minutes in a game sometimes to adjust, especially if you miss some of your perimeter shots. We have to do a better job of driving the ball against the zone and getting the ball inside, because we have guys that can shoot and they're just open. If the shots go down right away, it's great because normally people just get out of it. But if they don't, then it makes it a little bit, tougher because now they shrink the defense.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.